Come, let us fix our eyes on Jesus. This is Unpopular Theology, Episode 9. We're going to be talking about the person at the life and work of St. Boniface of Mainz today. Before we get started, go ahead, hit the like button, go ahead, subscribe, go over to our Facebook page, like us over there. Post new content there every Monday through Friday. And the only other announcement is that next week the video is probably going to be out around 6 o'clock Central Time. That's just how it is. I gotta walk home from work. That's how it's gonna be next week, so don't get worried if it's not up by 5. Now time for Christian news. Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri has decided to reissue the call for president of the seminary. This coming after the meeting of presidential electors on Tuesday. This follows about a week after Lawrence Rass, the president of Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, declined the call to serve as president of St. Louis. The long list of candidates will be released on September 15th. In the meantime, Daniel Preuss will serve as interim president of the seminary. Now for the news that has enveloped our nation in the past 2 weeks now, namely the news of George Floyd, his death, and the rioting and looting that has happened afterwards, along with some peaceful protests. According to Christianity Today, George Floyd, quote, left a gospel legacy in Houston. They cited examples of him helping expand church work into the 3rd Ward, a notoriously rough neighborhood in Houston, and helping out with baptisms. It has been also noted in multiple sources that he was in Minneapolis on a church work program. As for the rioting and looting, which does not honor his memory, graffiti has been found on St. Patrick's Cathedral. This happened on Sunday, I believe. And the burning of the building of St. John's Church right across the street from the White House has prompted President Trump to go, during a press conference, to walk up to the church steps of the church and hold up a Bible. This drew some criticism because protesters were cleared out using chemical means to clear the area for the president. This even drew condemnation by the Episcopal Bishop Marianne Edgar Boudet of Washington, D.C. I have a few comments on this. She said that what Trump was saying was not biblical. Well, not what Jesus said. Well, she denies the resurrection of the dead. That's something that Jesus said. So I would say that maybe she needs to look at that Bible too. I'm not saying Trump's exactly the model of biblical morality, but it's the pot calling the kettle black here. As for saying that he was not invited, the sign clearly said all are welcome. So somebody maybe needed to change that sign. In other news concerning the riots, President Harrison of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod has issued a statement condemning both racism and the rioting and looting, citing multiple Bible verses in the report, and you can find that on the LCMS's website. It's probably very easy to find towards the top of the page. Supreme Court ruled last week that restrictions on churches are allowed for in the First Amendment of the Constitution. This was a 5-4 decision with Chief Justice Roberts siding with court liberals against South Bay United Pentecostal Church. Justice Kavanaugh, however, noted that these were not the same restrictions placed on hair salons and other businesses, and where is the line for that? These are questions that are going to need to be answered. That I think, yes, this is a violation of the First Amendment. On the note of violating the First Amendment, or walking back violations of the First Amendment in this case, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois has backed down on his executive order on churches to stay at under 10 people. He is now allowing for up to 100 in a congregation, this coming after a lawsuit was threatened in the Supreme Court. Proclaiming the same Jesus as Boniface of Mainz. This is Unpopular Theology. So, biography about Boniface of Mainz. He was born in Devonshire, England. His given name was actually Winfrith. And he was sent to monastery school at age 7. And he wanted to be a monk. His parents didn't want him to be, but he wanted to be one. And so the parents gave in and sent him at age 7. He became the director of the school at nursing and wrote the first Latin grammar in England. He was ordained at age 30 and given the name, and at that ordination and commissioning from the Pope, he was given the name Boniface, which means good deeds, doer of good deeds. He went to Friesland, which is modern-day Netherlands, first, but was kicked out by the heathen king, and then went to Germany in what we now know as Germany, in 719. There, he's most known for cutting down the sacred oak at Geismar, which was dedicated to the Norse god Thor. And the story behind it is that it didn't take much to knock that tree down. I think the story I read said less than 5 blows. And the tree fell in 4 pieces, and it was seen that it was rotting on the inside, according to tradition. And the point of him cutting down the tree was to show how futile the native religion was. He was also known for proclaiming Jesus as he related to German culture, namely as a folk hero. The way he would do this is he would appeal to, like I said, German idea of folk hero. My mom is from Newell, Minnesota, for example, and in that town they have a statue of the great German folk hero Hermann the German. Town's very well known for that statue. Well, what Boniface did is, this will be an example of what I think Boniface pretty much did. You Germans, you like your heroes, right? Yeah, we do. And he would go, okay, well, let me tell you about my hero. He conquered death. And that's how he would introduce the gospel of Jesus Christ to the, at the time, heathen Germans. He was a missionary in Hesse, Thuringia, and Bavaria. And in 743, he was consecrated Archbishop of Mainz. And that was a new archdiocese, and he resigned in 753 to become a missionary in the Netherlands. On June 5th, 754, he was murdered, and his companions. And the story goes that they were going to see some new converts in order to confirm them, and a band of pagan pirates ran across them, and his companions wanted to fight back, but Boniface, quoting Romans 12, I think it's Romans 12, said, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And thus they lost their earthly life, but gained the riches of heaven. So how do we celebrate Boniface of Mainz? How do we remember him? Well, we could do reading about Paul's missionary journeys, which is pretty much anything after Acts chapter 13. It laid the groundwork for every missionary afterwards. He made inroads to Europe, which made inroads to England, which allowed Boniface to make inroads into Germany and the Netherlands. Of course, I'm going to suggest hymns. You can do a hymn on missionary and witness. That's Lutheran Service Book 823 through 840. Pick whichever one you want. Then my personal favorite hymn for talking about martyrs is Saints See a Cloud of Witnesses. That's a hymn 667 in the LSB. And then I'm going to give one more thing for how to remember Boniface. Try to think of a way that you could convey Christ in our culture. Now, it's a little bit difficult because our culture is not doing too great at even being a culture. Try to see if you can come up with a way. That would maybe be an interesting thing. So we give God thanks and praise for Boniface because he brought Christianity to Germany, or what is now Germany. And we give God thanks and praise that he shed his blood in for the name of the gospel. And that's all for this week. Next week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's going to be the commemoration of the Council of Nicaea. So we're going to be doing a commemoration video, but it's also going to be kind of our first video in a church history thing that I've always wanted to do. So until then, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus.